Son of a bitch, you see what happens when you wait too long to release a video? As most of you probably heard by now, Microsoft has officially removed all the restrictions they were going to add to Xbox One upon release, with the exception of Kinect still being a mandatory device in that motherfucker. But what really sucks is my glorious rant is now useless. Motherfucker, you couldn't do this shit next week? Your sales weren't going to be affected that much longer, assholes, man. I had this shit all planned out. I was going to blast the shit out of you and all the dumb shit your console was going to have, and now it's gone. All that hard work is now gone, and the worst part is, if I had done my video ahead of your announcement, it would have looked like I was predicting the future or some shit. Instead of doing a completely new rant, I'm just going to address a few things real quick, but I want people to hear my originally recorded rant. It's 18 minutes of pure entertainment, so I don't want that to go to waste. I actually predicted that Microsoft was going to remove all their restrictions in this video, although I didn't think it was going to happen this fucking quickly. I did predict in the prior Sony video that Microsoft could do this, and once they do, Sony's lead will be in jeopardy, and I still believe that, but I will say this. No matter what Microsoft says, no matter how much they spin this into listening to their customers' complaints, this is not about people complaining. This is about greed. 100% unfiltered greed. Greed got them into this mess, and greed is going to get them out of this mess. If they weren't so fucking arrogant and greedy in the first place, they wouldn't have had all these restrictions to prevent used games. If they weren't so focused on how to fuck people out of their money, they could have gotten more money from people who openly enjoyed the product that they were going to create. They wanted to become another version of Steam, yet they ignore the fact that PC gaming and console gaming are two completely different economic infrastructures. Consoles can't copy Steam. That's just the reality of life, and they couldn't fucking accept that. Now, I could probably do an entire rant on why Microsoft cannot follow the Steam model, so who knows, if I ever get the urge to blast Microsoft again, hey, that's another video. But now that they've seen the pre-orders, which have actually ballooned up to 4.6 million units for PlayStation 4 being pre-ordered, compare that to only 0.75 million. Not even 1 million Xbox units have been pre-ordered in the first week. They had no choice but to make a quick change. They're getting their ass kicked by 4 million units. This isn't Microsoft listening to their fanboys. This is Microsoft looking at Sony's sales, pushing their shit in over the long term. They're not making this change out of the goodness of their heart. They're making this change because it's going to fuck with their money. If they were really listening to their community, they would have done this after the reveal. If they were really listening to their community, they wouldn't have released any press info on the policies right before the E3 conference. If they really listened to their community, they would have made this change immediately after the E3 conference reaction or after Sony trolled the shit out of them. No, they made this change less than 2 days after Amazon, Walmart, Best Buy, and GameStop all released their pre-order sales information showing the beatdown that they're currently getting by the PlayStation 4. So again, regardless of what console you plan on buying, regardless if anyone plans on switching consoles or staying on a console, Microsoft didn't do this to please you. They did this to please themselves and to make themselves money. They made these changes in the first place to dictate where you can spend your money, and now they're changing the shit to make sure they can get any kind of your money. Remember that come November when both consoles are released. Anyways, I might talk about this in a future video, but for now, enjoy my original Microsoft rant, uncut, uncensored, and completely outdated. Do you smell that? Can you get a whiff of that? That's the smell of Microsoft getting shitted on by every platform. Oh man, are you fucking people for real over there? I mean seriously, did you not think gamers wouldn't revolt? Did you not expect people to jump ship if Sony didn't go along with your bullshit? Come on man, give me a fucking break. Now the gameplay in the background is me actually playing my own games again. Can you believe this shit? 2 videos in a row, I'm actually getting my own gameplay in this motherfucker. But no, anyway, it's the NCAA 14 demo, because we all know Microsoft was all about TV and sports a few weeks ago when they revealed their console and shit. But anyway, let this be a lesson for you to Microsoft. You are in the business to please your consumers. You are not in business to please the fucking publishers. Consoles and publishers are in business to please people that will give them money. And frankly, you've pissed off a good portion of customers and basically pushed them all to PC, Sony, and Nintendo. And you did this your own goddamn self. Nobody is fucking with your business more than you are right now. Holy fucking shit. I have never seen a more self-destructive company. Not even Sony with PlayStation 3 did they do this fucking bad. And now, Microsoft wants to follow that model. By now, people know the properties of the console. It's going to be $4.99 in the US and a shitload more in other countries. Actually, only 21 countries, because they only plan on rolling this out to 21 markets, not including Japan. Hell, not even including Poland, which houses the studio that's making the game called The Witcher 3. That means they might not even be able to play their own damn game, depending on the release date and title of the console. And the shit is region locked. No more importing from one of those 21 countries. So if you live in Uzbekistan or Karajo land or motherfucking Gugu, you ain't gonna see shit until they release it in your goddamn country. Now, let me get this straight, Microsoft. You've had 8 fucking years to think of ideas for a new console. You obviously had high-level meetings with overpaid scumbags. You had focus groups asking 12-year-olds what they wanted from their games and shit like that. You certainly sucked off Activision and EA for their input. So how the fuck did you manage to conceive the most non-user-friendly media device ever created? You made Kinect mandatory, not optional, but mandatory for the Xbox to operate. Sure, you can turn the shit off, but it still needs to be connected and plugged in no matter what. You can't just leave that piece of shit in the box or throw it out and expect your Xbox to work. So let's say your Xbox gets the red ring of death or whatever the fuck it'll be, a VCR 12 a.m. blinking clock. You mean to tell me that people have to buy another Xbox One and Kinect if they have no warranty? Because remember, the Kinect comes packaged with that bullshit. It's not like you can just get a console on its own right now. You have to buy the Kinect that comes with it. So now, you have 2 Kinects. One's useless because Microsoft doesn't allow the console to operate separately without it. Or worse, say you drop your Kinect on the floor and the shit breaks. You can't just buy a new Kinect right now. They don't sell it separately. You can't play your Xbox because your fucking spy camera's now broken. How long will it take to mail out and fix that motherfucker? In the time it takes you to mail out and fix, the owners won't be able to play their fucking console. I mean, you have to be a goddamn jackass not to realize this bullshit. You know, what option will they have at that point? Buy another fucking console for $500 more fucking dollars? Look, I have no issue with the Kinect itself, and turning it off when you play is fine and all, but making it mandatory to operate your console is just fucking bullshit. 2 pieces of equipment needed for one to work. Get the fuck out of here with that garbage, man. Considering the sky-high failure rate of the 360 when it was first released, do you really think people want to take their chances with Xbox One and Kinect upon release? Hell fucking no. Do you really think people want a device to sit there and wait for the Xbox on command? Hell no. Can you imagine the trolling that will occur with some candy-ass 14-year-old is playing Call of Duty and shit like that, and his older brother or sister comes along and yells, Xbox off. While that little fucker's in the middle of a game? Oh man, did you not envision this bullshit? The 24-hour check-in thing shouldn't be too bad for the majority of people, but it's a pain in the ass for some people, man. Most notably, military members. They don't have access to the internet. Another group of people that complain are people that go on vacation and take their consoles with them. I don't know what the fuck for, but hey, that's a possibility, you know what I'm talking about? You gotta make sure the hotel Wi-Fi works in that motherfucker now, don't you? Overall, the 24-hour check-in thing is not that big a deal to most people, but for the few that it will inconvenience, particularly people with no internet, you just lost more customers. You basically alienated military forces who have no use for online play and just want a console to play a few offline games. And I know what Sony fanboys will say as a wise-ass remark, well, Xbox is basically a bunch of shooting games, so all they have to do is really go out in the field to get their fill of shooters. That's fucked up. It's funny, partially true, but it's still fucked up. But anyway, man, the problem people have with the 24-hour check-in shit is what it's being used for. There's no secret, this is tied to DRM, digital rights management. Forcing you to log in every now and then to check up on what you're doing is the only way to let publishers manage digital content, which leads me to my next point. Used games. What the fuck? Can this shit get any more complicated? You know, back in the day, before all online gaming and shit like that, people borrowed games. You know, hell, kids borrowed shit all the time. If you had Mike Tyson's Punch-Out and I had Contra, we could just make a fair trade and play the damn games, man. Now you have to give the motherfucker a game and he has to be on your friends list for 30 fucking days? What the fuck? Are you the goddamn new Facebook, motherfucker? Now, Microsoft's response is they can let any one of your 10 friends on your list download games from your library with no problem. You know, it's a pretty damn cool feature. I must admit, it's something that can be pretty useful for people who utilize it. But do you really give a fuck if your emo raving cousin who cuts himself at night with a plastic spork has access to your library? Sure, your friends will benefit from this. Have one person buy the game, 10 friends download it, and split the cost. Wait until Microsoft gets a hold of that. Wait until they find out people are abusing that shit. Watch, the first motherfucker buys game number 1, right? And then you have 10 people download it. Then the next person, he buys a game, and those same people download it. Then the third person buys another game, and the same 10 people download it. And now, you're just gang raping the shit out of Microsoft's shitty policies. I bet you they will continue that shit real fucking quick. Oh man, I hope whoever's listening to this video who plans on getting Xbox with a group of friends, you go out and you do this. One person buy the game, the other 10 abuse it more than a ladyboy from Thailand. Then the next person gets a game, and the group goes off on that shit like a Brazilian gangbang during Carnival. I mean, come on, people. Make this shit happen. I want Microsoft to bleed from the asshole over one decent change they actually made to this motherfucker. Now, what happens when a real-life friend finally gets the console? Does he need to still wait 30 days to access your shit? Or is he a immediate part of that 10 that you can add that can access at any time? You know, you haven't laid out the full plans of what happens when you want to replace one of those 10 people either. You know, say I don't want certain people to access my game anymore. Can you block them? What happens if they're already made off with plenty of shit? You know what I'm talking about? Fucking kids these days, They change their BFF more than they change their goddamn underwear. You know, one day their best friend could be Bucktooth Timmy. Then the next day it's Clubfoot Johnny. Then on Wednesday they'll be friends with the little butchy lesbian girl that dresses like Charlie Chaplin. You know, by the end of the week, none of them get along anymore because someone said something stupid on Facebook or Twitter or whatever the fuck it is. Did you ever stop and think about that part, Microsoft? What happens when people want to change that 10 closest friends and family motherfuckers on their list and shit like that? What happens when someone goes out and advertises his 10 friends list for a price? Pay him $50 for a spot and you could get his games digitally. Then, after they get his games, he turns around, deletes everyone, and charges another 10 people for $50 on a spot on that coveted list, and then starts making profit off of this motherfucker. You know, these cocksucking, greedy fucking YouTube channels, they'll do it in a minute. You know, if these cunt monkeys can get stupid-ass kids to like and favorite their videos every day, and also buy their ridiculous t-shirts and merchandise to put more money in these cyber criminals' pockets, you don't think they won't do the same shit with this 10 friends bullshit? Did you ever stop and think about what a greedy fuck like that would do? And you know why they'll do it? It's because when you fuck with people, they fuck you back. When you try to screw someone over, they will not hesitate to screw you over in the same exact way. Face it, Microsoft, you can't get around the used game issue. People borrow games all the time. Same way women borrow shoes, kids share Pokemons, porn stars swap spit and snowball with each other. Sharing is caring, motherfucker. And when you put a restriction on what we can share, we put a price tag on the concept. Black market deals occur all the fucking time. And you'll find out soon enough that people will take advantage of your shit for brains policy and make more money off your stupid fucking concepts than you will. Although Sony came out and said used games will still be played, they left the DRM issue up to the publishers. EA could come in and make a similar limit on their games. Activision could do the same. But Sony's at least letting the publishers look like the bad guy. The revolt against used games on PlayStation 4 would be heaved towards publishers who already piss off enough gamers with cheap microtransaction gimmicks and shit like that. But Microsoft decided to take the heat for the publishers. Instead of just doing what Sony did, they let the publishers decide what game rights people should have, and they take the heat for their bad decisions. I mean, this is a great PR move. Take blame for something you should be blameless in. Make gamers mad at you instead of being mad at the publishers who they should be mad at, other than the fact they're aiming to please publishers and price gouge gamers. And why on earth would you punish indie gaming studios? Of all the stupid goddamn decisions you made with Xbox One, this is the most puzzling of all. Independent studios that have no publisher funding them and dictating terms have the most creative control over any game they want. They're not restricted by a fucking publisher who is basically nothing more than a pimp at that point, and they can make what amounts to a decent game for people who don't need to over-advertise mainstream games. A perfect example, Oddworld. A franchise that has been around since 1997. It started on PlayStation, it's actually had a few games published by Microsoft over the years. The studio making the game doesn't have a publisher, nor do they want one. They self-finance the game, and they have more than enough capital to publish on their own. But Microsoft isn't allowing them to publish. They want these smaller studios and startups to get a license with some of their gaming partners, EA, Activision, Take-Two, whoever the fuck. So of course, they don't want to. They just want to put out their fucking game, market the shit a little bit, and hope their game turns a profit. What's so fucking hard about that? They don't want EA or Activision telling them how to make their game or what to change. So indie studios are basically told to go fuck themselves by Microsoft, which means potentially excellent games from these studios will only be found on PlayStation and Nintendo and PC. Seriously, Microsoft, can you be any more publisher driven than this bullshit? Of all the dumb fucking ideas you have, this one alone shows that you and the publishers are sitting there suckling off each other's teeth. This is beyond bullshit. Now, all of these gimmicks from Microsoft are small enough that if you implemented only one of them, it wouldn't have made such a huge impact. You know, the 24-hour thing wouldn't have been too bad. Used games would have been a pain, but people would have got over it. The Kinect crap is mind-fuckingly stupid, but if you sold the shit separately, it wouldn't have been a huge issue. Smaller studios not being able to self-publish is a horrible idea, but if people bought your console, they would have acquiesced and joined a publisher. Region lock wouldn't have been so bad if you rolled the fucking thing out to more than 21 countries at an exchange rate friendly price. I mean, Australians will tell you how much they pay for this bullshit. But when you add all of these little things up and combine them and put a price tag at $100 higher than your competitor and limit the countries, then you create a problem for yourself. And granted, all of this shit might end up getting scrapped if they find themselves getting stomped in sales. You know, when a company receives enough backlash, they tend to appease gamers with some concessions. They may very well eliminate the mandatory connect or the mandatory check-in or the used game policy, but by that time, the damage is done. The damage has already been done to the point that Microsoft is still portraying themselves to be greedy, cocksucking assholes. their response to all of this has been, this is not a sprint to the finish line. We're in this for the long haul with Xbox One. In other words, you're being stubborn, arrogant, greedy, and inflexible. And all of this is being portrayed to your own fucking fan base. If people can't connect to the internet, hey, buy a 360, because we all know Halo 5 won't be on the 360, motherfucker. You also tout your TV and the NFL and piles of bullshit you're throwing into the consoles, calling features and whatnot. People outside the US aren't even getting any of that shit. Hell, they don't even give a fuck about the NFL because the rest of the world plays soccer or football or feetball, whatever the fuck you want to call it. They care more about Messi, Ronaldo, and Manchester United than Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, and the Super Bowl. And not for nothing, but a football fan could just turn on his TV and watch the motherfucker. If he wants the NFL Network, he'll subscribe to it. Or if some providers actually provide it as a basic channel, why the fuck would someone want to turn on their Xbox to watch TV from it? I mean, seriously, do you wipe your ass first, then take a shit? No! You know what's the saddest shit out of all of this? You watched Sony implode in the last generation. You took advantage of Sony's arrogance, and although the 360 had its problems, you beat them bad in the US. Worldwide sales, PlayStation 3 obviously caught up. But in the US, you clearly beat the PlayStation 3 in sales, and you did it in a number of ways. First was beating them to the market 1 year early. You got the drop on them from day one. So this whole bullshit of this is not a sprint doesn't match what you did the last console generation to beat Sony out. Your way of pulling people from the dominant PlayStation 2 console was to get the 360 on the market early and roll out impressive games like Gears of War, which made gamers switch over. So don't sit here and pretend you're not sprinting this time around, because the last time you did it is how you beat the PlayStation 3 in sales. It took them 7 fucking years to catch you in worldwide sales. So if you plan on matching the PS3 sluggish sales, you're going to be playing catch up for years. PlayStation 3 priced themselves out of the market and kept refusing to drop the price. You kept 360 prices lower than PlayStation, and you made it a more appealing option. Now, you're the top price console, and your foreign markets didn't even get a fucking exchange rate worth the pot to piss in. So they're paying significantly higher costs. Yeah, that seems totally fucking appealing. But the big difference is, Sony never gave any illusions that publishers were more important than the gamers. Sure, they overpriced the PS3. Sure, they were arrogant about the cell processor, thinking developers would flock to the new technology, yet it never happened. But they got lucky in winning the Blu-ray format war, where you were left dead in the water with HD DVDs last generation. But now, what advantage do you have? Do you really think the Kinect camera is that big a deal? I mean, shit, the US government spying on people, I'm sure they must love that fucking thing. Other than the Kinect, you're not adding anything that people don't already have in their house. People have cable boxes to watch TV. People have movies and Netflix and shit to rent. Halo TV is not something people are going to give 2 fucks about unless they've never played Xbox. So what in the world do you think your console has that's worth the extra $100? Opening pre-order sales are leaning as expected towards PlayStation 4. So right off the bat, you're going head to head with them this time around, no year head start, and you're already looking at a 2-to-1 pre-order difference in the United States. 7-to-1 in those 21 markets you're rolling out to, but overall, across the entire world, there's a 17-to-1 difference right now in pre-orders. And that's not including the people who'll be waiting for incentives and bundles in the future, and people that are going to be buying without a pre-order. I mean, what do you think's going to happen come holiday season? Mommy and daddy need to buy their annoying fucktard of a child a console to get them to shut the fuck up. They head into Best Buy or Walmart, go online to Amazon, and they see a Wii U at $299, they see a PlayStation 4 at $399, and an Xbox One at $499. Which do you think they're gonna fucking buy? At that point, they really won't give 2 shits what their dumbass kid wants. He's too fucking stupid to know the difference between his foot and his ass, so the parents aren't gonna care what console he gets, unless the dad plans on playing it. They're gonna go with the cheaper options, while informed gamers will wait until the price drop occurs before they go out and get their new consoles. I will say this though, you did the smart thing with your games and getting Metal Gear, Final Fantasy, and Kingdom Hearts from Sony exclusives. You'll most likely have time releases for Titanfall and Dead Rising 3, as I said in the Sony video. You have a Halo game coming, Black Tusk Studio supposedly working on a top-notch game. It's most likely gonna rival either Uncharted or God of War or some shit like that. And of course, you always have the Gears of War property. But just look at how bad you got your shit pushed in. From PlayStation 3 to PlayStation 4, what is Sony doing different? What differences do the consoles or services have that you don't? They're staying on Blu-ray, so there's no media upgrade. Although they have more processing power, it's not going to be a significantly noticeable difference, especially on multi-platform games. You have exclusives, they have exclusives. You both have cloud gaming. Both offer up entertainment services like your TVs and crap and all that shit, and all the fucking football nobody gives a fuck about. Sony has movies and Netflix and all that other shit, and apparently you have a water cooler, according to Nancy Tellum. And best of all, Sony is copying your paid subscription model. PlayStation Plus will be required for online games. So if anything, Sony is making gamers pay for products after all these years of bragging about free services. Now they have to do exactly what you were doing. Sony is doing nothing different other than getting people to pay more money. You already had people paying for Xbox Live for years, and Sony caved in and followed your lead on payment plans. So if they're doing nothing different, you had a lead in the last console generation, Why on earth would you change it? Think about this for a minute. Those that own 2 consoles can look at this comparison. What is Sony changing and what is Microsoft changing? Sony is asking people to pay for more money for online services. That's it. That's their major change. Every other aspect from their PlayStation Slim model is staying the same, including no backwards compatibility. The used game issue remains the same as it was on PlayStation 3. Developers make the final determination. There was no mandatory check-in before and no mandatory check-in now, with PlayStation camera remaining optional. Microsoft changed their policies to suit publishers, and now you're seeing the backlash. At some point, you're going to have no choice but to realize you totally fucked up. And my guess is it's too late and the damage has already been done. Sony's going to bust open a huge lead in sales in the first year or so until Microsoft finally smartens the fuck up. Your only hope is that Sony doesn't go for the jugular. You better hope with those increased sales, EA and Activision don't jump ship and start giving them exclusive content. You better hope those deals you made with Times exclusives don't start falling their way, although Sony prefers to outright buy content and shit like that as opposed to Times exclusives. You better hope that Remedy Entertainment and Epic don't jump ship the way Bungie did. You better hope that with all your stupid fucking gimmicks that Master Chief saved your ass in 2014, because for the next year, you're going to be spending most of that time scraping the shit off your fucking face every time Sony decides they want to take a dump on you. You're going to be regretting treating your fan base like mindless fucking idiots because they will spend their hard-earned cash on a company that realized last console generation treating your fans like shit doesn't make money. Sony learned from PlayStation 3, and you're going to learn as well with Xbox One. Sony was an arrogant motherfucker with PlayStation 3, but at no point did they ever purposely fuck over their customers. They overpriced and they overhyped their console, but they didn't restrict us. They didn't pigeonhole us into using the console a certain way. They certainly didn't tell us that we're basically leasing the console and games that we really don't own them. Now here's what I predict. Within the first year of releasing the Xbox One, you're going to be so far behind in sales and hardware and software, you're going to have to cave in. The first thing to go is going to be the used game issues. As soon as you eliminate the used game issue, all hell's going to break loose, because then you're going to have no choice but to drop the 24-hour check-in process. The fact is that 24-hour check-in process is there for used games, and once you allow used games, you're going to have to allow them on the console anyway. The next issue will be taking Kinects out of the box, and that move will allow you to drop the price point of at least $100 to be on par with PlayStation 4. The fact is, Kinect should not be mandatory. If you wanted people to say Xbox on, you could have built a microphone into that little fucking TV VCR piece of shit. But the fact that you're making it mandatory shows you have absolutely no fucking idea what you're doing. So when you finally realize that you don't need it to be mandatory, you're going to take it out of the box and you're going to drop the price point of your stupid ass console. Indie developers will eventually be let on your console, because if they're making Sony money, if they're making Nintendo money, and if they're making PC money, you're going to want in on that, because after all, you pride yourself on your own fucking greed. But either way, once you drop all this bullshit, the stigma that you have will be you only did it to make money. You're only caving into the bottom line because Bill Gates and Steve Ballmer want their Xbox distribution bonus checks, and you assholes haven't been able to produce that motherfucker. For all intents and purposes, you could change the name of Xbox One to Vista and people will probably get the joke. You're trolling yourselves with this piece of shit. Sony is trolling your piece of shit. Nintendo will be trolling your piece of shit. Fucking PC will be dancing circles around your flaming corpse, teabagging the shit out of your outdated technology and restrictions. And guess what? When it comes time to find blame as to why your console isn't selling, you won't have to look far to find someone to blame. All you have to do is look in the goddamn mirror and start yelling at that sorry motherfucker staring back at you, because that's whose fault this debacle will be if Xbox One loses its huge market share as it did in the US, as it's getting blasted in worldwide sales. Anyways, that's it for my 3-part console rant. Oh man, this was a long fucking video. Anyway, as always, rate, comment, subscribe, and all that good shit. And coming back next week, I'm bringing the blueprint back in this motherfucker.